Matthew here from MiniWargaming.com, and it's time for another Sit and Talk. This is the Ask Me Anything show where you can ask me anything about business, wargaming. You might even get personal if you want to talk about politics or even religion. So if you get easily offended by topics such as religion, please don't watch the show, as it does sometimes come up. Also, if you want your questions answered, leave them in the comment section below, unless you're watching this on YouTube, in which case click the link in the video description below to go and leave comments on our site. It's just easier for me to print them off. Also, as usual with the new format, we have two Sit and Talks today. We have a 45-minute one, which is available right now for free, the one that you're watching, followed by a 30-minute one that's available in the vault only, also at the video description below. If you want your questions answered in the vault one, still leave them here, as that's the ones I will draw from. You can leave comments in the vault one, I just won't answer those, just like I won't answer the ones that are on YouTube. Not because I don't like them, but just because I got 23 pages right here just from the other one, so we're all good. Now, before I go into it, there are lots of questions on here about Ash no longer working at Mini Wargaming, so I'm going to address it right now at the beginning. It's probably not to your satisfaction, I gotta warn you, and then I'm going to skip any question that talks about that whatsoever, just because, as you'll see from my answer. So yes, Ash is no longer an employee of Mini Wargaming as of this week, and I can't go into details as to why not. Mainly, not because of like super secrecy or anything, but because it's just not good policy for an employer to really give personal details as to why an employee is no longer working there. It's legal reasons and just ethical reasons as well. So just needless to say, it's unfortunate that he's no longer working here, and we are going to miss him, and we wish him the best in all his future endeavors. And also to answer the other questions, which is usually what's going to happen to Fantasy, War Machine, and Infinity content, our plans are to carry forward and continue producing that. There might be a temporary slowdown of some of them, namely Fantasy might be dropping to once a week just for until we get everything back in line there, and Infinity might get delayed a little bit. But the idea is to continue. And of course, as we've already announced, we are hiring. Obviously, we now have a position open. What we're looking for is somebody who has experience with Fantasy and or War Machine. Experience with Infinity and Warhammer 40K, of course, is a bonus, but not required. If you are interested in this, and it's to work in our offices, I'm getting all sorts of questions such as, well, the obvious one, will you pay for me to move from the UK or from somewhere here? It's a job here in our Welland offices, so you need to be able to move here or commute here, and obviously have to be legal age to work. Actually, we have a minimum requirement of 18 just because of everything that we do here. And I don't think there was many other questions about it. If you want to apply for the job, send me an email, matthew@miniwargaming.com, with your application, including whatever you think is necessary. I'm not going to give you this form to fill out because I want your ingenuity into it. I want to see how you apply. That's actually part of the application process. So if you send me a blank email with no subject line and just attach your resume, don't expect to get the job. In fact, I don't care too much about your resume because most people don't have experience on their resume that's really related to a job like this. I'm not saying I don't care about a resume at all. I'm just saying that it'll probably not be the most important part of your application. So send an email to matthew@miniwargaming.com if you are seriously interested in working here, and we'll just take it from there. We've already received dozens of applications, so I can't guarantee that I can actually reply to them all unless we're actually interested in having you in for an interview or some battle reports to see how it all works. So that is all I'm going to say on the matter, and I know it's not necessarily satisfactory. You want to know all the details. You might even feel that you are entitled to the details, but that is not the case, just because that is not how a good business is run, talking about ex-employees for whatever reason. Unless, of course, they want to talk about it and they make all that official. That's different. So let's go through the comments that don't talk about that. Captain Quasi, the lack of usual thumbnails throwing me off. Anyways, just wanted to ask if you could give a shout out to my grandma. Her name is Joni, and it's her 76th birthday today, and she just loves you guys. Now, when you say that, do you mean today as in when you wrote the comment, or you know that I'm going to be making this video and posting it on the Friday, so that it's, or do you know that Thursday is her birthday, and that's when I usually record these? Because today is Thursday, April 9th. So, and this comment was 5 days ago, so on the 4th. So her birthday could have been the 4th, the 9th, or the 10th. So, Grandma of Captain Quasi, happy belated birthday, or happy current birthday, or happy future birthday, which, if you're watching this, is current birthday Or if you're watching this sit and talk later on, happy belated birthday, Grandma, to Captain Quasi. The reason there was no thumbnails is because last Friday was a holiday, so I posted the sit and talk from home, and I didn't have access to the thumbnails from home. Simple explanation, not a big deal. All right, Spurious1. Hi Matt, just a quick recommendation for your website. All of your staff seem to be very proud of your narrative campaigns, as you should be. Could you add a page or menu to your site that lists them all? It took me a while when I first started coming here to go through all the bat reps to find those stories, and I keep hearing you mention. Thanks for all the great content. Yes, the short answer to your question is a definite yes. What we're going to be doing, is what we're currently in the process of doing, is redesigning aspects of our site incrementally, so little by little. And on the list is to redo the category system, because some of the categories we don't even really use that much, and others we use more, and so it just makes sense to add a narrative campaign category, not have them as battle reports, but actually have them under narrative campaigns, because they are different than regular battle reports, obviously. FatCat3390. Hey Matt, so I am a Necrons player who dabbles with Sisters of Battle on the side. As such, I don't really look too much into psychic silliness, as for the most part, I just smile and nod as it hits me. However, as a result, I only just learned something that just seems flawed. You can't shoot flamers at units with invisibility cast on them. I know, right? The old invisibility was you fire at Ballistic Skill 1. The new invisibility is you snap fire. And those are two very different things. If it said you fire at Ballistic Skill 1, flamers and blast weapons could still target them, which they should be able to do. Snap firing, on the other hand, you can't. My mind was blown by this. Now to most it seems straightforward enough, but let's think about this. You can shoot at them with regular guns. This means you know they are there, but you just can't see them. I can think of no other situation where I would want a super soaker filled with napalm more than in this instance. I mean, what better way to hit what you can't see than to set that entire area in its ablaze? I agree. I feel like this is just a result of Games Workshop relying too heavily on the term snapfire when determining how rules work. Any comments on this, and are there any rules that just make you want to grind your teeth in frustration by how little sense they make? Invisibility is actually my biggest beef with 40k. All the psychic powers, some of them are incredibly powerful, some of them are totally useless, average, but invisibility it just is outside of that. It's not even too powerful or too weak. It is just stupid. It is dumb. How it just makes something too unkillable. Yes, there are ways around it. You can bring the one assassin, is it the Codices assassin, I think, which debuffs everything in 12 inches, so it removes blessings, and so they'll no longer be invisible. But that's like very specific, just to bring it and hope that it's alive to do that. Yes, you could bring your own Psyker spam to try to deny the witch. Yes, you could, you can try to fire blast weapons at nearby things and hope that it scatters onto them, or you can fire flamers through them at a target and hit them as well because of that. So it is kind of annoying. Like the Death Leaper in Tyranids also has the same rule, just all the time, that you can only ever fire snap shots at him. In close combat, you just use your weapon skill normally, but he has a high weapon skill, so you're typically hitting on 4s, maybe even 5s. Except invisibility, you hit always on 6s, which is just ridiculous as well. But the Death Leaper is just one guy. He's strong, but it's really not that hard to get around it. So yeah. And yeah, so yeah, it is really annoying. Invisibility is really annoying. Clarence, hey Matt, I'm really enjoying your videos while I'm in Korea. They really help in satisfying my Warhammer fix. I think I'll be back in January 2016 for a month or so. I was wondering if you would be interested in doing a map-based campaign using the Planetary Empire set with the other mini wargaming staff who play 40k. It would be a cool blend of both narrative and competitive gaming. Yes, actually. It's like you read my mind before my mind had it in my mind, because it was just yesterday I had it in my mind, and you wrote this before that, right? 5 days ago, yes. Yeah, I've just had the idea to do something similar to that. I'm not going to give any details here because it's still very early conception, and I don't want to like commit to something, because then people will ask me about it for the next like 6 months. When are you going to do this? When are you going to do this? And so, yes, we actually bought some Planetary Empire sets to do something with. If you think this is too much of an investment in time, I could maybe do one with whoever in fantasy with the Mighty Empire's rule set. Please let me know if you're interested. Stay tuned. But when you're ready to come in for battle report, send us an email and we'll make arrangements. I'm not sure. I'm looking at the audio meter and it looks like the mic might be too loud. So I'm going to pause, but you're not going to notice because I'll be right back. I'm just going to check the audio settings. Okay, seems fine. I'm just nice and loud. Dragoon Master 101. I just learned that Possessed and KDK are better than Catan. Corn help you. Oh, Corn Demonkin are better than Catan. I think most things are better than Catan. A unit of tactical Space Marines is better than Catan. So not really surprising. Mrs. Wisher, Matt, quick suggestion. I think it would be a great idea to start filming some kind of semi-competitive 40k league or campaign with the mini wargaming staff. The details could be flexible, but I was imagining maybe 8 players with 2,000 points lists and some kind of double elimination bracket system. A loser can change up to 25% of the points in his army. Winner's list stays exactly the same as he advances. It would be pretty easy to have a light narrative going where all the different armies are fighting over the same sector and eventually one clear winner emerges. A lot of cool stories could just naturally emerge from progressing through the brackets, and as armies, races, players are being eliminated. I love your guys' narrative campaigns, but my biggest complaint is that by making the story flexible enough to accommodate for major character losses or one-sided victories, you've inadvertently made winning or losing within the campaign less important or meaningful. Yeah, still perfecting narrative campaigns, that's for sure. Now let's address your first thing about having competitive 40k. I think there is definitely a I don't know if I'd use the word niche, but yeah, let's use the word niche within our 40k viewership who would love to see a show which is just pure competitive 40k. And that's definitely something that we've thought about and will potentially be doing in the future. Just because it's nice, as much, we try to stay on the, you know, just kind of playing in your basement kind of feel where it's just for fun. You tailor your list so that your one is not way more powerful than the other. Most of the time, obviously, sometimes you can never fully stop that from happening sometimes, or the dice might do it for you. But we're trying to have that kind of friendly competition feel where it's like, it's not about the lists that you see at tournaments. But I also know that there's some people who, as much as they might enjoy that, would also enjoy seeing those win-at-all-cost lists. Not the win-at-all-cost players necessarily, because they can kind of be difficult to get along with, but the win-at-all-cost list where it's like, you know what, I'm going to bring 5 Flying Hive Tyrants because I can bring my Leviathan detachment and a Combined Arms detachment, and my troop choices will be the Mucilid Spores because they're only 15 points per troop choice. And then ally those with Necrons. Whatever, just something ridiculous that you see in the tournament meta, or the Lictor spam, or the Wave Serpent spam, like things that people are coming up with there. It might be annoying to watch for some people because they'll be like, that's so cheesy, but it's educational in a sense that allows you to see what is currently really hammering away at the tournaments. So as much as you might not want to be the guy that brings that list, it still can give you valuable insights to tactics. Like, okay, if that works, then a dumbed down version of that would also work. Like, for example, Tyranids, it's usually good to always bring 1 or 2 Flying Hive Tyrants. Maybe not 5 like everybody wants to do. Like the one, was it the Las Vegas Open or Nova? I can't remember. Everybody's list seemed to have an allied detachment, an ally of 3 Flying Hive Tyrants. No matter what their list was. Space Marines with 3 Flying Hive Tyrants and their 3 Mucilids. So they brought the Leviathan detachment from the Shield of Baal, which allows for 3 HQs and 3 troops. That was your minimum is 3 troops and 1 HQ, I think, and then you're allowed to bring up to 3 HQs. So there's your 3 Flying Hive Tyrants. And a few lists had that, even though the allies didn't make any sense. But it's tournament play, so you can kind of throw fluff out the window and do whatever you want. As most tournaments require Battle Forged, but that's still Battle Forged, which is kind of the funny thing. So yeah, I think a series of that would be interesting. Narrative campaign-wise is that making the story flexible enough, you've inadvertently made winning and losing within the campaign less important or meaningful. That's more an element of how I push the story. Sometimes I push a story arc too much, and therefore, regardless of what happened, I always try to drop back to that, and that's more a fault in the storytelling. And so it's a hard thing. I've talked about this in the past. It's hard to really know the perfect way to do it. Like I might have this overall story in mind, but then the dice and the games just go nowhere near that story. But I know it's a good story, but sometimes you can't force that into happening. So like I know some people had complaints about Rise of the Blood Reavers ending. A lot of people loved it. Like, don't get me wrong. I know that with any narrative, no matter what we do, no matter how awesome it is, there will always be people who will have complaints. Like that, you can see that with TV shows. The most popular TV shows will also have the largest group of haters because they're popular, because people get invested so much in them. They're more likely to get disappointed if it doesn't go exactly the way they want. And let's face it, when you're doing a narrative, no matter how you do it, somebody's going to get ticked off. A movie that you love, somebody else is going to hate. You can guarantee that somebody else hates it. And the more popular the movie, the more people you'll find that hate it. Not because they hate it because it's popular, but because there's more people who have watched it and then therefore have an opinion on it. And some people hate it because it's popular, but we won't count them. So I don't think there's ever going to be a perfect way to do narrative campaigns, whether we force a story, don't force a story, whatever it happens to be. So we're just going to keep experimenting with different formats for it and see what we like to do, see what the viewers like, and kind of go from there. Tama Drum. Hey Matt, just wondering, have you ever tried fielding the Death Leaper's Assassin Brood from the Rising Leviathan 1? What would be your strategy and how to play that formation? I did actually. I think the battle report was posted not too long ago, unless it's in the ones that are going to be posted soon. It's in the past couple months at least, 2 or 3 months that I played it. I played it against an orc player? Might have been orcs. And I had them all deep strike in because they don't mishap, or they don't scatter. And then you have a turn where because they're all, oh wait, no, the Death Leaper's Assassin Brood, is that the one? No, they're all individuals. That's the one where you bring the Death Leaper plus, I think, 5 lictors, and they're all individual units, which is awesome because you try to bring them all in reserve as soon as possible. With 3+ reserve, you get most of them usually. And then you kind of put them and threaten things, because you got your 2 strength 6 shots. They're hitting on 4s, they're not rending, and then they have to kind of sit there and survive a round. But the nice thing is, because they're individual, most likely people will be wasting shots on them because they have to, the whole squad fires at 1 lictor. They'll probably kill it because it's only got a 5+ armor and it has stealth, like big deal. Unless you deep strike into ruins or something, in which case it'll have a better cover save, but then they can just charge it. And as good as it is in close combat, by itself, a lictor is not super powerful. But I did use it and it was fun. It was fun. Unfortunately, didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to, but it was still pretty interesting. Captain Epic, have you ever thought about starting a Patreon page? This may sound stupid because of the vault, but you could offer the benefits of mini wargaming t-shirts or other physical things other than videos and the like. Also, this would be nice for people who don't want the painting tutorial downloads or discounts, but still want to give more to the company. I've not become a Vault member because I do not have time to watch all the videos you post already, so adding more to the list seems a waste, and thus being a Vault member is not worth the investment. I love what you guys do on the internet because the nearest Games Workshop retailer is a 1.5 hour trip away, one way. You are truly the best. Well, thank you. And thank you for showing your willingness to support us. It's kind of funny that you'd see it that way, that you'd rather pay a few bucks, I'm assuming a few bucks a month to a Patreon account, than $3 a month to a Vault account, and feel that the money is better spent because, well, I don't want all those extra videos because then I'll feel like I'm losing out, but you're still paying around the same amount of money. The short answer to your question is no, definitely not going to do a Patreon or Subbable or anything like that. Mainly because it would be, well, actually I'd say 2 reasons. One, because I don't believe it would actually be a good monetization method for our particular business model. And number 2, the PR backlash would be horrible. Because we have our Vault, I'm not saying people shouldn't do Patreon or Subbable. I'm saying because we already have our Vault and we're already getting money from people that way, coming forward with a second method might seem a little greedy. Now, I'm not saying that people who do it are greedy. That's not what I'm saying at all, because I know that other YouTubers have done that, where they've had more than one way. And the reason they're doing that is the same reason that we offer you the ability to use PayPal to pay for a Vault membership or a credit card. It's because the more options you give people to pay for it, the more likely they are to do it. So it's not a greed thing that we offer more than one payment method, that we accept both MasterCard and Visa and American Express and Discover Card. Like that's not a greed thing, that's just a give the users the option thing. But when you start doing like a Patreon or Subbable or regular Kickstarters or Indiegogo campaigns, then it gives the perception of maybe a bit of greediness. And I would want to definitely avoid that. Even if there is no greed intent whatsoever, it's just an attempt to try to make things monetize better so that we can then produce more content and better quality content. It's not always what you intend, it's the perception of what ends up happening with the audience. So no, definitely not. If you want to support us and you don't want to put money into the Vault, there's other ways to do it too. You can just constantly share whatever videos you watch, comment on them, like them. That helps us to get more viewers. If you want a monetary way to help us, then buying t-shirts, or like I said, if you get a yearly bronze membership, that's $3 a month, even if you don't watch all the videos and you only watch a few of them. It's just $3 a month when you get the yearly ones, so it's really not that expensive if you're looking to support us in a monetary way. So that's usually the best option. If you really want to be a Vault member, get access to everything, be a Silver member, because then you can get everything downloaded and you get all the DVDs and past Blu-rays and all the future stuff that we release as well. Mickey Levy. Hi Matt, according to the current crop of rumors, the next edition or version of Warhammer Fantasy is going to be a skirmish game due out in early May. Is this of any interest to you, or more like something you'd hand over to Ash and Steve? Or in this case now, Steve and probably Leland. Yes, this is definitely interest to our company. I am interested in it, but I'm just not interested in playing fantasy because of the amount of time I've been spending with 40K. If I was not making videos for a living, I'd probably get into fantasy, the new editions and stuff, because I like the variety. But because of the impact that the 40K videos that Dave and I create have on the business, it just makes sense for me to keep trying to improve those and keep working on them rather than splitting my focus. That focus really helps to make a difference there. So we'll definitely be covering it, 100% definitely. But it won't be me covering it. Although I really like what they've done with it. I know tons of people are up in arms, but I'm sure there's even more people who are enjoying that there's actually a change to it. Whether it'll be better or worse, I don't know. I have no opinions on that. The Mobius. This sit and talk used to be interesting. You would answer all sorts of questions on an interesting variety of topics. Now it's just people asking the same questions that have already been answered time and time again, downvoting anything with the slightest amount of intellectual content. I'm going to have to stop watching the show now, which I love, because people keep asking, I'm new, what should I bring? Ironic, because I haven't answered any questions of that sort, and I think the questions in this one have been nice and varying and interesting. And but I think what you're seeing is what people see in forums, and that is that the same questions do come up because new people come in all the time, and they're not expected. And I hate when people on a forum say, use the search function and find it. A forum is not about a repository of articles that you can go back and look up. It's a discussion board. And so discussion board means that the same discussions keep coming up over and over again. So the longer you're part of it, the more you're going to see the same things come up. The sit and talk is going to be a similar thing. Of course, we can address the thought of the day, whatever new is coming out, and upcoming stuff or events that have happened. But there's also always going to be some of the same questions coming up over and over again, and that's just kind of the nature of the beast. So I'm sorry that you find it harder to watch because of that, but I guess if you wait long enough, you could always come back, and all the stuff will be new enough. Gene Stealer. Hi Matt. I've just started out playing Warhammer 40K, all thanks to miniwargaming.com that inspired me to do so. Would it be possible for you to make the Vimeo videos in different qualities? I would appreciate an option for smaller file sizes, since I mainly download the videos to watch on the bus on a tablet with low resolution. 5 gigabytes is a bit overkill for that and takes too long to download. Vault member until your genes are stolen. Very nice. I have been wanting to make changes like that. Vimeo is a little restrictive. And then now the downloads wouldn't be too hard. That might be something we look into doing. Like I said, we're working on updating the site and its functionality and all that. And unfortunately, the one thing I really don't like about Vimeo, and this is if you're streaming it, the download we can of course include a standard definition download. We just have to start implementing that. But the Vimeo is, we have that little HD button. It's an all or nothing thing. It's not like YouTube where it's got it renders your video in 5 different resolutions. Vimeo it renders in 2 resolutions, full HD, and then standard definition. And you can tell, and by default it does 720p, and then you can tell to do 1080p, but it won't keep the 720p. It'll just have the 1080 and the standard, which is really annoying because some people's computers will run better with a 720p, and when you're just watching it in a window and not on the full screen, you don't need 1080p. It's a wasted resolution, and that could be harder on your computer. That's why YouTube will scale it according to the size, and it'll actually auto-detect how your bandwidth is doing, and it'll adjust it so that you can keep watching it without many buffering issues. So that is something that we're looking at trying to improve. Let me just put it that way. Silly Runner. So I want to get into the new Star Wars Armada from Fantasy Flight Games. However, I've been doing lots of research about sweatshop labor overseas where cheap toys are often made. I'm worried that Star Wars X-Wing or Armada miniatures are made in these degraded human workhouses, since the models look hand-painted and assembled. However, I really want to get into those games. I haven't heard from Fantasy Flight customer support yet. Do I have a legitimate concern, or am I just getting too extreme? Thanks. I think that's a legitimate concern. I'm not saying specifically towards Star Wars, but there are companies who will be less ethical about where they source their materials from than others. And so I do believe that you want to give your support to companies that are going to support more ethics. Unfortunately, overall, what's typically going to happen is that whatever is cheapest for consumers is what they're going to go for. And we can talk about ethics all the time. We can talk about Walmart coming into Canada and it's an American store, so it's taking Canadian economy away, and yet everybody goes and shops at it because, well, it's a good store with good prices and a good variety of products. So we complain about it, and there is a small minority who do try to support maybe the local businesses and all of that. But in the end, as a consumer, we make a limited amount of money. And so if we support everything, it ends up costing us more than we actually can afford. And so really what it comes down to is the consumerism of it does force us to have to make compromises. So it's not something to be, I'm not saying that you definitely do have a legitimate concern, and it's something to be aware of. But at the same time, now in this case, because you're talking about a miniature war game, obviously you have more control. It's not like food where, being able to get food cheaper or clothes cheaper allows you to survive. This is something different. So if you do find that the legitimacy is really bothering you, then that's something, that's a very personal decision. And it's an important one. Make sure that you do feel morally right about what you are doing. But I don't have any comments specifically about whether Star Wars Armada or Fantasy Flight games uses sweatshop labor. I have no idea. I don't even know where it's manufactured. I haven't really ever looked into that. Theosis. Have you ever considered doing a Mass Effect themed campaign with Militarum Tempestus versus Necrons? I feel like it would even be a kill team campaign with various Tempestus minis representing Commander Shepard and his crew versus Reaper forces, or Necrons, or renegade humans, the Guard. Given the popularity of Mass Effect and Mass Effect 2, it might be a quick, easy way to draw in Vault members. Vault member for life. I don't know if I agree with the last part, where because Mass Effect is popular, doing a Mass Effect type narrative campaign would make any difference whatsoever, because it's just not our market. I'm not saying people who play 40K don't play Mass Effect. I'm sure there's plenty of them that play video games, and Mass Effect, of course, is a popular video game. But just because it's not the universe that we're playing in, the people watching this channel or specifically watching 40K videos love the 40K universe typically, and so obviously, like what you said, is in the 40K universe, but trying to just imitate another universe might not be like so blatantly. Obviously, when I do narrative campaigns, I take ideas from everywhere, and I don't have any problem with doing that. So, Audrey 210. If you had to guess, how many times do you think you said Matthew here from miniwargaming.com? I had to guess. I've done hundreds of battle reports, and each of those start with it. I've done tons of sit and talks. Each of those start with it. If pretty much every video starts with it. How many videos have I done? Well, we have over 2,500 videos in the vault right now. I think we have around 4,000 or 5,000 videos on YouTube. If I assume that I've done a quarter of those, even just because of the time, length of time I've been around, maybe that's too high, maybe it's too low. I'm not quite sure. That's what, let's round it up to 8,000 videos. So that's 2,000 times that I would have said Matthew here from miniwargaming.com. Plus all the times where I say it a second time because somebody asked me a question about how many times I've said Matthew here from miniwargaming.com. This video alone, that's 4 times now, I think, is what I'm at to. So up to. PA 1310. Grey Knights was my first army and still is. Well, yeah. That's like saying I was born in 1981 and I continue to be born in 1981. You can only ever have a first army once. So, sorry. That is such a funny thing to say. Grey Knights is my first army and still is. However, I got a great deal on some NIDs, would like to make a heresy list and forge a narrative. The problem is that I cannot think of a good reason why they would ally. Grey Knights and Tyranids, you're not going to find a good reason. I would like to know if you can make up some reasons why Grey Knights would ally with NIDs, or should I flip a coin and sell the losing army? LOL. You can always just have 2 different armies that don't ally. That's always an option too. If you can't afford to have both, but it sounds like you can because you want to make allies, I would just make 2 different armies. I don't think you're going to find any reason for Grey Knights to ally with NIDs. NIDs could ally with some Imperium forces and maybe Tau by having like the Gene Stealer cult infecting them and making them maybe more like slaves to the hive mind kind of idea. We could rig that up. I've even found a way that they'll kind of be allies in our next narrative campaign that involves Tyranids and Eldar, but it's not like the Eldar are willingly allies with them. It's more that they're forced to be allies. But maybe that same idea could happen with Grey Knights, where the Tyranids are fighting I don't know. Good luck. I can't really think of any good ideas. There's a reason that all on the Allied Matrix Tyranids are come the apocalypse with everybody, is because really it's hard to come up with a reason as to why the Tyranids would ever ally with somebody. Now, if they come up with a Gene Stealer cult supplementary codex, that can definitely have allies. I could see them doing that. Unfortunately, because they've grouped all the Imperium armies under one box, that they'll have to have probably a special allied chart, because they could definitely ally with Imperial Guard, because they could take over them with the Genestealer cult, but they would have a hard time allying with Space Marines, especially Grey Knights, who would be able to detect that kind of stuff. Imperial Guard for sure, even Tau, even Orcs. Orcs are hard, but they could ally with the Orcs. Necrons, not really. You can't Genestealer cult into a Necron force. It's just impossible. There's no biological stuff for them to do that with. But I could see them doing Tau. I could see them doing Imperial Guard. Eldar, not likely, because they're so strong psychically. Orcs would be tough, but possible. But yeah. Chamberlain 1513, please either make this a podcast or at least do the MP3. I do the MP3 every week. Last week, because I did it from home, I forgot to get the MP3s uploaded, so I couldn't do those. Being able to do something else while I listen is super important. If I'm not working with my models, I'm probably using my iPad. I can't listen to this video and work on another app. No, I agree. The MP3 is typically available. If you're watching this on Mini Wargaming site, then it'll be the link below. Da Penguin Lord. Hi Matt, quick question here. If each Chaos God offered you an ice cream, which one would you take it from? Rot, Rage, Excess, or just as planned? So Zeech. Well, the Rot one is obviously not going to taste very good. The Excess one, I know with all the past things said about Slaanesh, it'd probably be the tastiest. So I'd have to say that one. Zarfon. Hey Matt, and greetings all the way from Norway. I have been following Mini Wargaming for about a year now, and have been seriously considering making the trip to play some games with you guys once I finish my university studies in a couple of years. That would be awesome. And I have some questions. How far ahead of time would you like to be contacted about the challenge, to organize dates, etc.? The sooner the better. Right now, I would say that you'd want to contact us at least a couple months in advance. You might get lucky if you only contact us a week or two in advance, but since you're coming all the way from Norway, you're going to want to plan your trip anyways. For example, right now, July is pretty much booked up, but May is not. June is booked up a lot. August is starting to get booked up. The summer gets filled up a lot faster. This year, our February and March filled up like ridiculously. We've never experienced being so busy during February and March. I'm not sure if it was a coincidence or it's because we started posting more of the, hey, come and challenge us things, but all of a sudden we just had tons of people coming in, which was awesome. And so like if you were to say, can I come in May, we'd probably be able to find you a time. If you said, can I come in July, that would be a lot harder. So the sooner the better, especially the longer distance you're coming. 6 months in advance is we can plan things as far in advance as we need to, and then obviously if major things change, then we can advise you of that. Do you have a place for people to stay at Mini Wargaming, or would the only option to be a hotel for the entire duration of my stay? We don't have a place. That's our dream one day, is to have our nice big Mini Wargaming building with some suites that people could stay at for free while they're here playing against us. That would be awesome, but obviously economically is not feasible yet. So you would have to rent a hotel. We do provide meals while you're here. Not all the meals, but the meals like while you're here playing. Like if you're here for a full day, then we pay for your lunch as well. Would I have to challenge one of you, or could I simply send one email and we can just organize battles with everyone? If you want, if you're here for multiple days, we'd love for you to challenge multiple people, but the best way is just to contact one person and then set it all up, and then we can kind of work together that way. And then if you want to email individuals to kind of set up individually what you're going to do with them, that's fine too. You're all awesome people, and I'd like to play at least once with every one of you. Well, thank you, and we could definitely work on that for you. Looking forward to the reply. Best regards, Amund. 10 points if you get the pronunciation right on the first try. I don't know if I did. Christoph, I heard you guys were visiting the UK this June. Just wanted to know whether you're taking opponents for bat reps potentially. Talked about this before. The answer is probably not. We will be releasing information about that very soon. And we'll be having some meetups and things like that. But other than that, don't really have time for games. Okay, sorry I have to skip some comments because, like I said, there's certain things I'm not going to talk about today. War Boss Tough Scraga. Hey Matt, how often do you have lists that are just complete madcap ideas? As an orc player, it's at least half of my list. For example, one idea I had was to field a list that included Gazgul's Bully Boys and 240 Gretchen. Why? Because it's a feasible list for 1850 list. If I wanted to paint that many grots though, what kind of madcap ideas do you get? Well, the problem with things like 240 Gretchen is it sounds so interesting until you plop them down and try to play. Then it gets really boring because you have to move 240 Gretchen and they're not even going to be that effective. Crazy ideas for lists I've seen. Well, sometimes I just try to do weird things like bring units that you just never see, or bring lots of, like for Tyranids, it would be really cool for me. I think one army would be to do like an unbound list where you just bring all Zoanthropes. One Zoanthrope per thing. They're each generating 2 warp charges, and they're 50 points apiece. So let's say it's a 1,500 point game, that would be 30 Zoanthropes. And so 30 Zoanthropes would generate 60 warp charges. Take that, demons. And each of them would have Warp Blast and another power. They wouldn't care about Dominion because they're all Psychers, or so they're all Synapse creatures, so we wouldn't need it at all. And so each of them would be potentially able to fire a Strength 5 AP3 Blast, or a Strength 10 AP1 or AP2 Lance. And on top of that, they would know another power. With 30 of them, you're definitely going to get some of the horrors, and you could start just pinning like crazy with 60 warp charges. That would be something else. Heavy vehicles wouldn't be able to stand against it necessarily, and you'd have to kill them one at a time. And they're 3+ invulnerable, and so that would be really annoying. And so is it a good list? It might actually be. It might actually work pretty well. You wouldn't be able to bring any Neurothropes because you have to bring squads of 3 in order to get the Neurothrope, and that would defeat the purpose of this type of list. But you'd have access to, let's see, everybody would have Warp Blast. You could get a bunch of Catalysts, although you might not use that as much, and give everybody Feel No Pain, or a lot of people Feel No Pain. You could get, the Horror would be the really good one to get. Paroxysm would be nice, but not necessary. But it's really the Horror. It's about blasting things and pinning everything else. And then the opponent's army just can't do anything. So I think that would be actually an interesting list to play against once, because the Psychic phase would be incredibly long, but everything else would be short, because the Zoanthropes aren't going to want to charge. They're just going to move, they're going to do their Psychic stuff, then some of them are going to run to reposition and grab objectives or whatever. So there's a madcap idea for you. Love Guns. Hail Matt, I was wondering if you or any of the other mini wargaming blokes ever dabbled with Battlefleet Gothic. I have not. I don't think anybody else here has. I think it would have contrasted nicely with some of your narrative campaigns. I do agree. I think it would be really nice to incorporate it somehow. Also, do you have any favorite StarCraft 2 casters and pro players? StarCraft 2 caster, my favorite is Husky StarCraft, except for the fact that he hardly ever posts anymore. He just recently started posting a couple more with the new beta out for StarCraft Legacy of the Void, which I had a dream about last night, that I was playing StarCraft 2, and all of a sudden I was playing Legacy of the Void, and it was really annoying because I didn't want to, because I didn't know all the new units and what they did, which is just a side topic. But I like Husky StarCraft. I like his personality and the way he does it, but I've been very disappointed that over the past few months he's basically done nothing. Don't know the reason why. He's by himself doing his business, and so you can burn out, or you want to do other things. And so I'm not saying like he's horrible, he shouldn't do that, he doesn't deserve to live. So no, he's just, whatever happened. I'm just disappointed because he used to put up 1 or 2 a day, and I'd watch them every day, and I loved it. Just loved watching that. So he's my favorite one. Pro players, I can't say I have a favorite. There's a bunch of names that when I see them, I recognize them, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I like watching that guy. But I can't think of any off the top of my head, which I like the most. Thank you guys for the Vault and all its content. Every mini wargaming fan should be in it. And if you can afford $60 for a tactical squad, then you can afford to be in the Vault. Much love and gratitude from Australia. Well, thank you, Love Guns, for your endorsement. Dark Knight 1664. Hi, greetings from England. I've just finished watching your match against Steve Nids vs Eldar. You were talking about your house rule where you can throw an objective card away if you can't achieve it. Steve pulled up secure 3 objectives, which he couldn't achieve as he only had 2 units left, but you said he couldn't chuck it as he could have achieved it earlier. Yet earlier in the game you chucked one away that said kill a vehicle or monstrous creature. Steve had no vehicles or monstrous creatures left, but you could have achieved it earlier. My point is, although you were well ahead on points anyway, and it wouldn't have made any difference, this rule wasn't fair in this case. And I agree with you. I've refined that house rule. Now the house rule is, given the initial armies, if you couldn't achieve it, then you can throw it away. So for example, if the initial army had a vehicle and you draw the vehicle one, then you have to keep it even if all the vehicles are dead. Or if it had a psyker, or you had a psyker and you get harnessed to warp, but you don't have any psykers left, you have to keep it. And you always have to keep the ones that are secure objectives in any sense of the word, like the ascension or domination. Even though if your initial thing, but you're a Grey Knights player and you had 2 units and you draw the domination when you're like, well, it's impossible for 2 units to hold 6 objectives, so therefore I get to throw that one away. That doesn't count, because you know that when you're building your army, there's going to be disadvantages to creating an elite force with less guys. And so we throw the ones that get thrown away the most often will be the ones related to psychic stuff, if you or your opponent don't have psychers. The one related to killing flyers, if nobody brought flyers. The one related to killing buildings or gun emplacements is the most often, because we often don't see those within our battle reports. That one gets thrown away a lot. And recon, if we're not using mysterious objectives, gets thrown away a lot too. So that's how I've refined that house rule, because I agree that, well, in this case, even with the new house rule, he still wouldn't have been able to throw that one away, but I wouldn't have been able to throw away the vehicle one earlier. Okay. Wolf Sigma. Now that Star Wars Armada has been released, do you guys have any desire to do some battle reports on it? Or is it too much like X-Wing and that's not worth the effort? The reason we're not doing battle reports on X-Wing isn't so much because we don't think it's worth the effort, it's because it's, well, maybe that is the correct way of saying it, but what I'm trying to say is, like, there's tons of games that we could cover. We get this question every now and again, why don't you cover this game? It's popular enough, this game is popular enough. And you know what? Over time, we hope to expand and cover more and more games. But when we look at our stats, you have to realize that what you don't see, as transparent as I try to be, I don't share the numeric reports of how much money we're making or how much certain videos are pulling Vault members. I can see it. I can see video per video, playlist by playlist, which ones are drawing in Vault members. And so that's how we make our decisions. We have to make it based on that. So when we see that certain things are doing so well, we have to pour resources into that, because we're a business and we need to make money. That's how we can expand. And then, you know, the more money we make, the more we can expand and cover more of the other games. Whereas if we expanded too early and covered those games, then we would make less money and not be able to make as many videos, which would obviously be something that you don't want either. So are we going to cover Armada? There's no plans right now. We're just kind of sticking with what we have, and we'll grow over the next years and cover more and more games. Fezzy Fresh. Hi Matt, I think you are really good at explaining rules as you did in your last sit and talk. Thank you. Is there a chance that you do some videos explaining rules that people often get wrong or that are topic of discussion? Rules I have in mind would be cover. You're right, people get cover wrong. Power of the machine spirit, vehicle squadrons, and kill points. You could also do more basic rules or specific tactics like tanking wounds. I think a lot of people would watch them, and you could also use your miniatures and terrain to make the videos more dynamic. It's not a bad idea. People like they often ask for tactics or rule discussion stuff, and it is definitely on the list of things that we could be doing, and it's on the list of things to experiment with as well. So I can't say we have any specific plans to do it, but at the same time, it is on my mind. The Quiet K. Hey Matt, I know you're not planning on doing any video game content, but have you considered making a StarCraft group or World of Warcraft clan? It would be an opportunity for fans to game together, and maybe you could even join in on some matches without tying your last hobby for sake of a hobby into your work. Thanks. Also Matt. I don't play World of Warcraft, and I don't really play StarCraft. I used to, but I just don't have time for it. We play Clash of Clans, and Chris actually started a mini wargaming Clash of Clans clan, which I'm now part of, but I wasn't when it started. I just joined because I wanted to, not because I had to. And it's not work related, even though it says many wargamers on it. And it's not allowed to become work related because it's supposed to be fun. Not that work stuff isn't fun, don't get me wrong. But like I said in my last on the sit and talk, I've turned enough of my hobbies into businesses. Some of them just need to be hobbies. So no, there's no plans. I don't play World of Warcraft or StarCraft. I'm a very casual computer gamer. I like to be able to sit down and just play and then walk away from it. And so getting tied down to groups, not that, I know you're saying you can not be tied down to it, but just, I don't know, I just kind of play. I like single player games more than multiplayer games. Clash of Clans being the exception to that because it's kind of a single player game. You just, you interact with all the other players by attacking them, but it's very impersonal that way, except for your clan chat, of course. The The Shining Light. Wait, did I miss something after watching this sit and talk? No, you work so I can play. Does this mean I can no longer play? Oh my goodness, no, the power of corn compels you. Thanks for all your videos. They are amazing and you do an amazing service to gaming. Thank you. Okay. Platter of hot fish. Oh, wait. Ooh, okay, this will be the last comment for this one because we're out of time. Hey, Matt. Oh, hello, Matt. Sorry, didn't say hey, it said hello. Hello, Matt. I am a new player. I have only been playing now for about 5 months. I am loving the game, and I enjoy the content you guys make to no end. Thank you. My question is about a lot of people I have read on the internet. Ooh, that's a bad start. And are talked to in my local games workshop and comic store. The specific people I have met are people who have been playing the game for a long, long time and are very nostalgic about the good old days, so to speak. They complain continuously about how the game has changed and how all Games Workshop cares about is making money and how nothing new is as good as it used to be. Yeah, I've heard that before. As a new player, this makes me feel unwelcome, as if I am to be looked down upon for enjoying the game I play as much as I do. Have you met or talked to similar people? Yeah, I've definitely encountered that a lot. Not ever since we no longer had a store, or you can see it on the internet all the time too. People saying 2nd edition was the best edition. Oh, I wish they did it like they did in 4th edition. Everybody has their opinions. Games Workshop only wants to make money. Well, guess what? They probably always wanted to make money. I'm guessing that Steve Jackson and Ian Livingstone, when they started their business, weren't doing it as a charity. It probably wasn't a non-profit organization. I bet they didn't go into it thinking, who cares about money? Let's just have fun playing games. Because guess what? Every business has to make money, and if they don't make money, they're not in business. So it has to be the primary concern. It doesn't mean that that's like what's on your mind all the time. You can come in and be like passionate about what you do, and I think Games Workshop is passionate about what they do, and that is making awesome miniatures, and even making a good game to go along with it. Maybe they're not passionate about making the game balanced or tournament worthy. Maybe they're not passionate about I don't know, lots of other stuff too. And maybe they are passionate about making as much money as possible, but as they should be. So yeah, I know I know the type of people you're talking about, and it's like, oh, come on, it's a new edition. I like when they change editions, even if they screw up things. It's like, I like a change. The new Tyranid Codex came out, and it was worse than the old Tyranid Codex, but I liked it still because it was a different way to play Tyranids. I like change. It just is exciting, and it kind of breathes new life into the game. Thank you so much for all you do. I feel like I get more from the Vault than I even pay for Vault Member for Life. Well, thank you. All right, so that's the end of the free sit and talk. Of course, if you're a Vault member, you can click the link below to go to the Sit and Vault. I kind of calling it that, which means it's probably going to end up being called the Sit and Vault, because that's how things get named for my shows, is that I'm like, in the meantime, the placeholder name is this. And that just is what it becomes. So Sit and Vault, the link below. We'll have another 30-minute show where I answer only Vault questions that I have not answered on this one. Of course, make sure you leave your comments on this one if you want them answered in next week's free or Vault one. Thanks for watching, and happy wargaming.